What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. Welcome back to Project Country Club. And it's actually the same night whenever I was doing the oxygen sensors, but I wanted to break this up into two pieces. We are getting ready to do the cam position sensors. This was one of the things that was not compatible with the new E67. The reasoning being that the factory ones, which this is still the factory one, this is well, I guess this is still the 06. This is the early ECM. They believe they call it the E22 ECM, and this is the one for the E67. The difference between the two is that the ones for the E22 were a 12-volt reference sensor. The ones for the E67 are the standard 5-volt, which is more along the lines of what you see nowadays. About all these sensors are going to be 5-volt reference sensors from now on. The rest of them, for the most part, worked. The reason that the O2s didn't was because they were wide bands, and now we're putting narrow bands in. But these, I knew from the get-go that they weren't probably going to work because they were different part numbers. I did a lot of research into the different sensors, the actuators, for the VVTs, I should say. I double checked to make sure the part numbers on those were the same, you know, stuff like that. It's a standard MAP sensor, yada, yada, yada. As I said, the MAP sensor is a 4-wire, which we're switching that over to a 5-wire here soon. I'm waiting on a couple parts for that. But all that being said, I knew that we were going to have to switch these things over. So I went ahead and ordered the connectors from Mouser. Mouser's great. If you guys haven't ever checked out Mouser Electronics, check them out. That's where I get all of my pins. If you're not careful, you will land on the wrong page for pins, and it'll tell you that you need to buy 6,000. There is generally a page for the same part number on the pin with an L at the end of it, and that means they're loose pins. You can order those individually. These things are 7 cents a piece. I bought, you know, an extra set. And then, of course, you can find out what the connectors are. If you were to, hold on a sec, let me set this down here. If you were to pull up the spec sheets, this is for the O2 sensors, but we'll take a look at it anyways. It will show you the connector, but then it'll also show you the connector part information. And a better example of that is for the standard style front O2 sensor connector on the LS platform. That one, if you flip the page here, will show you that here is the service connector. That's the one that you're looking for. The service connector is going to be the one that you're going to be able to buy. You can buy it as a loose item. It's cheaper than if you were to try and generally search for oxygen sensor connector, GM oxygen sensor connector, or cam position connector. If you go in and find this, you can go to a place like Mouser and put in the actual part number off of this, and it will pull this up. Then on top of it, same ordeal, it will tell you down here what the terminal part number is. And in this case, well, for this one, it's a different part number, but you can also punch this in at Mouser and buy the terminals specifically for it. And if you need to, you can also get the release tool, but generally we don't need to worry about that stuff. That is how I always do it. I end up always buying extra, so I have a few of these sitting around, not with the connectors generally, but I have a whole bunch of Gen 5 stuff sitting over in a bin over here where I could repin half the connectors into Gen 5 if I wanted to. So they're just good to have extras. We may have to use an insertion tool on these, and basically you can get on Amazon and look for pin insertion tool. They are plastic or a copper device that has a split in it that goes around the wire that allows you to push the connector from the backside into the harness, because sometimes you just can't push the wires in. I've got some floating around here somewhere. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Well, I think they're out in my work truck, but if you've ever been in the military, worked on cannon plug stuff like that, it's the same principle, just a way of seating these. You'll normally hear them click. Luckily, the pinouts on these are the same. It's just that the connectors are different. So I will be using my crimpers. Let me grab those out of the drawer here. Using my crimpers, I'll drop a link down in the description. These things are lifesavers. Once again, whenever you're using these, pay attention, because if you get down into the dies, we'll be using the largest die on this set of crimpers because this is a fairly large terminal style, but that means the dies are still staggered. One die is designed to crimp onto the insulation, the other one is designed to crimp onto the wire. And so whenever you put a wire in on these, I've got extras in here, I'll just show you real quick. Let me make sure I've got extras. I need 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so if you have your wire here, you only want to do about maybe this much. That might even be a little bit extreme on there. Then what I find is easiest is to find your size in the die here, open it up, and find the insulation size, which is the looser of the two sides of the dies. You'll see it whenever you're doing this, and go ahead and start. This die is actually not the right size for this crimper. Well, we're going to use it anyways. And then what you want to do is insert your wire where the wire is in the first part of the terminal and the insulation is the second part of the terminal. And that way you are crimping down on the correct parts of the wire and the insulation, because each terminal is designed to make contact to both the wire and the insulation. Okay, so there's the wire side of it. Let me see if I can get this one to crimp the insulation side of it. The insulation side of it's a little bit big for my die. I might have to kind of squeeze this together. Then we'll run it through here like so. Okay, and then whenever you're all said and done, you will have a nice crimp that hits both your wire closer to the connector and your insulation. That is not pulling out no matter what you do. That is a solid crimp. That's why you want to use the appropriate crimpers whenever using metric crimps or metric terminals, things like that. So that all being said, I want to jump over, knock these out real quick, and then I'll jump back over to the camera and we'll talk about it whenever I'm done. Okay, so we've got the new cam sensors in, we've got the new harnesses done. Everything looks good. I need, a little tape tidying, but nothing too crazy. Enough for now that Once we get the oxygen sensors in there, we should not have any check engine lights except for the crankcase learn. We got to get the car running well enough with the new injectors. But that being said, it's about time for the live show, so I got to jump out here. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, doing connectors, doing pinning, how I find out all the wiring and stuff like that, help finding things, hit up the description down below or the comments down below. Ask those questions. And as always, stick around, man. Plenty of Project Country Club stuff coming down the pipe here soon. ABT, always be tuning. Thanks for stopping by the garage.